Hey guys, so day 15 started with this setup. You'll see why later. First things first though, I had to lock in the concept, jot a few notes, and clean up the plan. I write notes in my notebook on my phone, but enough of that. Straight to the sketch. Panel 1, Jack sneakers, stomping through cookies, blasting, crumbs flying at the viewer, just like on the sneakers. That's the energy I'm chasing. And this is telling the piece of the story. I draw these type of scenes with quick lines, not full detail, just enough to map out where the characters land and what's moving around them. And here's why I started with that setup. It wasn't just tape, it's the frame for something bigger. 12 canvases locked in, ready to connect into one full grid. I've got 12 canvases lined up. I could flip them into 12 separate pieces or link them together for one big grid painting. And honestly, I'm leaning toward the grid. With the grid, I get to play small and big at the same time. Since this grid is all connected, I'm also sketching the surrounding panels as I go. That way, the action and the movement, even the small details like the cookie crumbs, will flow naturally from one panel to the next. So today I'm focusing on the first two panels of the first two rows. Panel 1 has my character Jax stepping on the cookie crumb, and I want those crumbs to carry into the adjacent panels. So the second row and the other panels nearby will already have a sense of motion and continuity, even if the scenes are slightly different. So while I'm sketching, I'm not thinking about just this one panel, but how it's going to interact with the rest of the grid. Once the sketching is done, I'll move straight into painting. And so today, I started sketching out panel 2 of the grid, and I really wanted to shift the perspective. Panel 1 was all about Jax, his feet stomping down on the cookie crumbs blasting out towards the viewer. But for panel 2, I'm changing the camera angle. And here's the fun part. The cookies aren't just random details, they're a bridge. The same cookies Jax stomped on in panel 1 are flying across in a panel 2. Some even pass in the front of Lily's silhouette. That way, the action flows between frames, even though the camera angle completely changes. The cookies aren't just objects in the scene, they're a visual connection. They're allowed to bend the rules a little because their role is to carry motion and energy across panels. And that's how this whole grid starts to feel alive, like you're moving through a world instead of looking at 12 separate drawings. In the next panel, I'll show you how Lily and Jax come together right before all the action happens. Let's talk horizon lines real quick, because sometimes perspective can break your brain. Here's my trick. I don't actually start with the world. I start with my characters. I picture them in my head first, and then I ask, where are their eyes compared to mine, the viewer's eyes? If I'm looking up at them, I put the horizon line low. If I'm looking down, I put it high. And if I'm eye level with them, I put it across their head or across their chest so it'll appear that we're looking eye to eye. For example, right here in my panel, I've got Lily sitting on the cliff and Jax mid-jump. I wanted to feel like you're just below them watching his leap, so I dropped my horizon line real low. And so I just finished sketching all 12 panels of those canvases I showed you all previously. Here's a couple of the panels, just a peek. I love sketching this stuff. Now comes the fun part, laying out all the panels and figuring out how I want to tackle painting them. This is part of the process where I finally plan my next steps and experiment with the composition. I've already literally arranged them when I was sketching them, but now I can zoom in and study each one. Some of these panels had tricky angles and expressions that took some extra planning. Seeing them all together helps me get ready for the next stage. Stay tuned for more of the process. I'm kicking off the painting phase by tackling the skies first. I figured getting the horizon and the sunrise colors down would set the mood for all the panels. I went with the yellow to orange gradient. I started to do a blue and aqua sky to match the sneaker theme, but sometimes mixing in blue and aqua tones don't always blend well and it gets muddy, so I decided to use yellow and orange because I wanted a smooth gradient fade. Starting with the sky also helps me keep everything consistent across the canvases, which is really important when you're working on a 12-panel project like this. It's just laying the foundation before adding all the fun details like the cookies, the cliff, the characters, and everything else. I love that moment where you get to see the colors come alive, but also have to make those small choices about how they blend and interact. That's the kind of stuff that makes this process so satisfying and unpredictable, and I can't wait to move on to the next layers. I decided to paint the cookies next on this 12-panel project because I needed to figure out how dark to make the rest of the background. The sky's already done, but the rest of it still needs color. If I went too dark too soon, the cookies wouldn't pop. So I'm looking for their color first to give me a baseline to balance everything else around it. I'm not finished yet, no shadows or highlights, but this is the start of the cookie layer. It's kind of like solving a puzzle. Once the cookies are in, I'll know how much contrast I can play with on the rest of the scene. This is the first pass. I'll be coming back to add shadows and highlights so it won't look flat. But for now, the cookies are finally starting to come alive on the panels. This weekend was a little slow. I didn't get as much painting done as I wanted to, but I did start blocking out the skin tones on both of the characters. It's not a huge transformation yet, but these small steps is what adds up to the final piece. What you won't see on camera is me dropping a whole container of paint. I wish I could have recorded this, but while I was mixing, I dropped it all over my shorts, the floor. I was annoyed because that was a lot of paint wasted, but that's just a part of the process sometimes. Small messes and eventually it all comes together. Before the brush even hits the canvas, the work has already begun. It's in your mind, in your choices, in the vision you refuse to let go of. It's not about the tools. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up again and again, putting in the work when no one's watching. Because let's be real, the canvas not gonna paint itself, and nobody gonna do it for you. Every detail matters. Every day matters. Some moments feel invisible. Some days feel small, but they're not wasted. They're the foundation, the rhythm, the world you're building. The magic isn't in the finished product. It's in the effort, in the patience, in the courage to begin again tomorrow, even when it's hard, even when you feel like giving up. Even in life, keep showing up, keep layering, keep creating. Every move you make, every effort you put in adds up. One day, someone will see it. You will see it, and it'll be worth it. Ever switch it up? Because that's exactly what I did when I decided to paint these canvases. So I said I wasn't going to show the painting again until the big reveal, but since I added a 13th piece, I decided to go ahead and give y'all a little mini reveal. This one right here is the 12 by 24, the cover canvas, kind of like a movie poster for the whole project. I wanted to have something that pulled all 12 of the smaller canvases together, you know. I started this whole thing just wanting to draw cartoons on canvas, nothing crazy. I'm not really a painter on canvas like that, but since I started sketching these out, I realized this is actually fire. The first 12 were 5 by 7s. This one's way bigger, 12 by 24. Ever go ghost creating? I like to call that locked in. Sometimes you just disappear into the work. Day 53, no posts, no updates, just you, the canvas, and that vision that won't let go. That's where I've been the past few days, and here's what it looked like. Okay, so I started hitting the details, got the chocolate chips, the skin tones, and the hair right in day 53. Now it's starting to look alive. Day 54, cookies and outlines locked in. Once those lines hit, the game was over. Everything snapped into place. All right, back to my question. You ever go ghost? Sometimes, even with a day-to-day challenge, all the recording, posting, and hype can get in the way. On days like that, I just lock in, record it straight through, and break it up later. That's what I'm showing y'all now, before we hit day 55. Well, alright, so now I knocked out the character's drip. Every color adds more attitude. This one's really starting to talk back now.